welcome back to High Touch Wellness. This is the second episode of the podcast. Quick update before I get into hanging out with you guys. So we had this like really big ambition for what attention wellness was going to be. There was like a group, there was like 2 shows, there was a podcast and like a main show. And, I've decided since we're kind of growing the network, we're about to launch a website soon. And we have so many shows and I'm producing quite a few of them just to, tug my own boat, or I don't know phrases. Toot my horn. Yeah.
You want to
not to toot my own horn.
I don't think you want to tug your boat.
I don't. No, I don't want
on camera.
Maybe pull a little Shockmaster action there. Also tugboat.
I thought because never mind.
I'm on his page.
Huh?
Yeah. I thought you were shocking yourself.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah. So eventually we'll do health and wellness sex edition, and we can talk all about that because sex is health too.
Well, if you want to hear an episode all about us talking about sex, you can head over to Ask Anthony and Alex Ask Questions, because that went off the rails quick.
This is a quick A3Q. We won't trip over that one.
Yeah.
All right.
AAA.
Well, this has gotten off the rails. But anyway, for simplicity's sake, we're just going to continue doing High Tension Wellness as a paneled podcast. And I think it'll work well. And I guess we'll see with this episode. So before we get started, before I talk about what the topic is and we dive into that, I want to ask you guys very sincerely, even though we're a little goofy today, how are you guys feeling? Anthony, how are you feeling, man?
I am currently not proud to say this. I'm very hungover. I went to experience a new brewery yesterday, and I got to get some beers. Yingling was doing some stuff, and then they opened a new brewery in Pottsville. So I was trying to network a little bit by being safe and social distancing and wearing my mask and stuff. But I tried some beers, and then I came home and had a couple, and I'm feeling it today, which is part of my. I want to do this wellness journey, and I'm trying my best. But every now and then, you have some slip ups, and I know where my shortcomings are, and we're working on it. Yeah.
Listen, dude, it's a marathon, dude. It's not a sprint. So
yeah. I don't think I'll ever stop enjoying beer, but I gotta definitely slow. I gotta turn the knob a little bit. I'm like I used to be like at 11, then I broke the knob off, and now I'm like a 7 or 8.
Nice. Well. Another beer enthusiast, I believe, is the Maestro Henderson. Scott, how are you feeling?
I do enjoy a beer every now and again. That is very true. I'm feeling very happy. I'm feeling very excited. I'm feeling, I guess a word we'll talk about a little bit later. I'm feeling very motivated.
Ooh.
I feel like I've got like a new kind of fire lifted under me, because I was for probably the last couple weeks feeling very stressed, feeling very overwhelmed with a lot of different things going on between all of the different things I involve myself in. And now a lot of those are starting to come to the end and, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And now I'm ready to I'm excited and ready to go on to the next sort of things that will then stress me out. I don't know. It's like a happy cycle for me. I'm not a person to just kind of sit and relax. Like if I'm not doing something, I feel like something's wrong. So I'm kind of at that cycle where I'm toward the end and I'm looking forward to the next thing that I'm building toward.
Nice.
That's actually a really good feeling. Second, I like that. Like you, I am actually in a position of feeling motivated, yet feeling accomplished. And that also makes me feel excited. Like I said earlier, we're starting to work on our YouTube. We're working on building a website. We've got more shows coming up, and just the potential of growth. Eventually, we're going to have an announcement about something that we just decided we're going to be taking part in. Actually, all 3 of us. We're not going to announce what that is now, but I'm also excited that we're doing new things and we're branching out. You know what I'm talking about, you jerk.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah. So, I'm really excited. Like you, I'm also finding that when I have accomplished all my work and I have nothing to do, I'm like, well, now what? Like I can't even sit here and play a video game anymore. I'm just like, no, where's work?
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling when the work is something you love and enjoy.
Yeah.
That's something I never got to experienced before this last year, so to speak.
I want to piggyback real quick. I know I just said I'm a hungover idiot, but I do want to say also that I feel very accomplished and motivated as well. Kind of not pulling back the curtain too much, but just recently you guys kind of brought me into the fold when it comes to the leapfrog side of things. And I didn't even really know what that was going to entail. And showing up and then got to use some of my equipment and just that production team is just so cool. Everyone's so knowledgeable. And it was a step into a direction of stuff I didn't know how to do. And I was super intimidated and I was nervous. And I don't know if I showed it, but I was shitting bricks, as they would say. Because it was like, one thing is I was around a bunch of people I'm very honored to be around, and I respect very, very much in their craft and what they do with independent wrestling. But also I was doing a side of it where I wasn't just being the fan. I was helping with the production side of things, and learning how to edit and stuff. Like, I was terrified, but I just kind of like did it. I was like, what's the worst that could happen? If I mess up, someone's there to help me, because they all said they would be. Yes. But I got to edit a bunch of matches, and like seeing them now air, and when they start to air, it's like I'm excited for that, for like that teamwork to kind of come together for everyone to see. I'm pretty pumped about it.
Right on, dude. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a cool experience.
Yeah, no, I think for all of us, it's like a shared experience that we're all kind of enjoying together, which is important in your social health, is shared experiences. I think it's very important.
Especially when you can actually work with your friends, because there are some friends, and I'm sure you guys maybe have some friends too, that you can't work with. You know what I mean? But then there's like I think it's just kind of like a special thing where not only are we like, do we have a good working relationship professionally, but also we're friends off to the side of things. Like, you know, we'll go hang out, we'll go to a wrestling show, we'll go grab a beer, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that dynamic's a very special thing. You know,
it was funny because that day, like, we got there, we all seen each other, we showed each other that love, and then we just all went in 3 different directions and didn't talk until the very end of the night. Yep. It was like, oh, hey, remember that time?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very cool dynamic. So today our topic is inspiration, motivation, and the power of affirmations. What do you guys think of when you hear inspiration, motivation? I feel like often they're confused to be very similar or the same, and they might be. I don't know. We're going to research it here today, but what are your guys' thoughts on these two things?
For me, I think someone can inspire you, but you need to take that inspiration and then turn it into your motivation. Yes. For example, I kind of said a little bit on episode 1, Kevin Smith inspired me, and he's inspired me by giving up things he cared about and loved to create something he wanted to do. So like when I first started this podcast, I sold all my really, really cool collectibles and nerdy stuff to then fund the start of my podcast. He inspired me to do so, but then I had to put it forward as my motivation to then do it. Someone can inspire you, and you can still sit in your couch and be like, cool, and then go to your everyday life.
So, okay. So what would you say was the motivation there? Like was it the visualization of what this podcast thing could be for you? Is that
pretty much just overcoming that fear of saying I'm going to do it? Because, you know, you can always say, man, I want to go on vacation. I want to do this. I want to do that. It could be something even small. It doesn't even have to be a huge, huge goal. It could be as much just walking across the room and saying hi to somebody. And then you just kind of jump. You take that leap of faith. And once you do it, you're kind of in that zen, like that, I can't believe I'm doing this mode. And then it happens. And then you're like, why? I was afraid of that the whole time. You know, one of those type of deals. So that's where I feel like for me, the motivation kicked in, where he inspired me to do something he loved doing. And it was probably something he talked about doing forever. And someone just like, why don't you just do it already? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like, but I think when people want to do something, especially in a creative sense, they put up barriers of why they can't do it. Well, I can never do that because I don't have the money. I can never do that because I'm not good on camera. I can never do that because I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do this. But you're not going to learn unless you try.
Yeah.
And that's literally what this 3-year journey for me as a podcaster has been. Like how we said before, I'd never learned how to use Adobe or how to edit a film or edit a match. But it was just like, am I going to sit here and put up that barrier saying I can't, or am I just going to try to do it? And then after I did, I was like, oh, I learned a lot, you know?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think motivation, it kind of like it starts in the mind. Like it starts in your mind, and it alters your thoughts and your emotional state. And then that in turn can fuel motivation, which is like the physical manifestation or the result of inspiration put into action. That's how I would define it. Inspiration in the dictionary is the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. Now I'm going to switch that over and
Can you also maybe put that in terms of like a spirituality thing where it comes to like people pray? People pray for change, but the change isn't going to happen unless you do the acts to then make that change a thing.
Yep. I mean, I'm going to capitalize on that in just a moment, too, actually. So, motivation is defined as the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. So, to get on your deal about prayer, I had a bunch of videos set up for this podcast that I wanted to present as inspiration, motivation, and kind of like guidance. Turned out copyrights are a thing, and this video just would have been blocked immediately. So only we would have gotten that information. So have you guys seen the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith?
I love that movie.
Okay, so no, all right. Well, let me drop this on you. The basically the dad's struggling to become better for his kid, and they're on the verge of homelessness, and they become homeless, and all this. Every time the kid goes to daycare, he comes out with a little gem of wisdom, right? And he imparts this on his dad, and he says like something like, "There was a man stranded at sea, and he prays to God that he will be saved. A boat comes by and says like, hey, we're here, we're going to rescue you. And he's like, no, it's okay, God's going to save me. And then it repeats this again and again, like, oh, another boat comes by, no, it's okay, God's going to save me. And then the guy dies, and he goes to heaven, and he asks God like, hey, why didn't you save me? And he goes, I sent you 3 boats, you idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, hey, either you take the opportunity that's given to you, or you make it happen yourself. Like prayer is one thing. Prayer is almost like manifesting your destiny in a sense. It's putting it into the universe, but it's up to you to take action one way or another. Take action or take opportunities as they come. That's my take on what you brought up there.
Because I think it kind of alters your mental state when you pray. Because really, when you're praying, you don't exactly know where that's going, but it almost kind of clears your mind of all that stuff, and now it almost like makes you look for those signs instead of those signs have been there the whole time. It's just now you're kind of in that, it puts you in that mental state of looking for those signs, and then the motivation is capitalizing then on those signs is that physicality. So like I totally see where that like spiritual element comes in, because it can help you clear your mind of all like either the negativity, the excuses, the doubts, all that kind of stuff, and you're just saying like, you're not necessarily saying it to someone physical, but you're just saying it out there that like, this is what I need, show me what I need, and then you're looking for that. You know what I mean? Like you're looking for that next step, when before that next step might have been there 2-3 times already, and you just didn't see it because of all these different things mentally that were blocking it.
Sure. It feels like what you're saying is that like prayer focuses you more on man, I lost what I was going to say. But
You're becoming more hyper focused on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, you're getting rid of all the clutter. You're adding focus to your desires and what's important to you, your priorities as well. Because you pray for your goals, obviously, but you also pray for your loved ones and your family, and you're literally focusing on your priorities and your goals. It's actually a really cool way to put it.
And I think it also helps that when you put it to something that's an unknown, you're not putting it all on yourself anymore, because I feel like that's a hard part of the motivation is you are doing it pretty much all by yourself. Whereas if you're asking for that help, not necessarily from somebody physical, but from that spiritual being,
Sure.
you know, it doesn't feel like it's all on you anymore, even though it still really is.
Yeah. Well, to tie this into pro wrestling and the network here,
All right.
we just had friends recently who have been manifesting this dream and manifesting a reality and asking for those prayers, and it
Mhm.
answered to them. Our boys, the main event, didn't get just one opportunity; they're on their third, and all
Yeah.
three opportunities have been against three of the top tag teams in the world. They got to wrestle FTR.
Yeah.
Uh, Jay got to get slapped by Tully Blanchard. Like that happened. You know what I mean?
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Then the second night they get SCU, AEW's first tag team champions, and now they're getting Jungle Express. Like that's
Yeah.
hard work, manifestation, and like motivation, all that coming together right there for those guys.
I'd say keep an eye out for Tuesday as well. I'm pretty sure they're getting a fourth opportunity.
There you go. Not many people who we know who were giving up. So we had friends like Casey Navarro, Clutch Adams, Rembrandt were all given up. Bones was all given up. Big Game Leroy were all given opportunities on Dark. But main event, I think, is the only one who got up like upwards of 4. I think Casey at the one time had the most with 2 or 3, or he had 2 or something.
I think he had like 3 plus a match with Ray Phoenix. He might have had 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So main events climbing up there as well, where they're getting some opportunities, they're getting some big names on them. So
Rex Lawless was there from Leapfrog as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really exciting. And a lot of that has, when it comes to your inspiration, your motivation, a lot of our friends recently, WrestleMania weekend, a lot of people cashed in on that opportunity this weekend as well, or that weekend as well, whether it even be GCW or the reunion show or all these other awesome events that went down this weekend. A lot of people worked really hard all year, even though the setback of COVID, they finally got a chance to really let themselves loose, and they did it. So it's kind of cool to see that, even it's a small payoff, but it's the next step, you know?
Yeah. And that's a little bit off topic, but since we're talking about it, something I struggle with people in my life. This isn't my problem, right? But I've experienced people who are disingenuous or they're jealous of your success, right? Or the opportunities you're given and the fact that maybe they're not a part of it or whatever, who knows, right? What do you guys feel or think when you see your friends get opportunities like that?
I love it. I personally, it excites me.
Mhm.
I'm gonna lie. When I first seen the poster of FTR and main event, I woke up and our little group chat we have, someone posted it, and I got emotional. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
they did it. Like this is like, we kind of had an idea because when they went to Florida, they were kind of seen in the crowd at Dynamite, and I was like, if they're in the crowd, they probably got some shows, because we all know, like, behind the curtain, there's a lot of taping.
Mhm.
But I was like, all right, they're gonna get a match. I thought they would have been against somebody, like, I didn't think they were getting the 3 teams they got. And then when it kind of happened, I was like, I was genuinely happy enough for them that I got emotional, because
Sure.
they're good dudes.
Yeah, I was the same way. It honestly was my reason to smile that whole day, and then it carried over into the next day, and now the next week. Like, I genuinely, my heart is full when our
I was
friends
I was
succeed.
very I will say this though, because they're such good friends though, and I know it was a good opportunity for them, and I know the whole pro wrestling thing, but
Mhm.
I'm sure somebody else in this room can agree with this as well. But I was very angry at first because, and it wasn't on them. I was angry of the way I thought they were treated the first night, like with
Yes.
commentary and the way they were treated in the ring. And I know they're heels, and they're supposed to be getting, like, the team they were wrestling against. They did everything they were supposed to do, and as a team, they did what exactly they were supposed to do. But I was kind of like, oh man, they're getting, like, played off as a huge joke here. Like, well, they like Jungle Express can get taken seriously, but main event can't. Like, I was kind of I was like, I was
Yeah.
offended because I truly love those guys.
Yeah.
I was
And then the
mad.
second night, I was like, okay, they got a little more love with SCU, and now with Jungle Express, they're in the same boat.
Yeah, I think they're going to really shine during this match. I'm excited for that. Yeah, I was upset with that too. I was very
I was
mad.
angry. I was
But
mad.
at the same time, I'm like, I know that they're happy and they're excited, so I'm happy
Yes.
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's important too. Like, I think as almost like a self motivation and inspiration too. Like, seeing the people around you that you surround yourself with do these things, it brings yourself up, even if, depending on what you're doing. So like, it makes you feel good that you're around those people that are doing awesome things. And the more awesome things that are happening to the people around you, it almost like is a group manifestation in a way. You know what I mean? So like, looking at it from like a totally selfish side, it like the people who you surround yourself can be your inspiration and motivation, because then you see these guys doing this thing, you're doing that, and you guys are all friends. It's like, well, all right, now like I see them doing it, like now there's something I can do to like go forward with it. You know what I mean?
Iron sharpens iron.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can look at your friend doing really good things and get jealous and be upset, and it could be a diminishing thing for you. You can get jealous and try to one up them, which is somewhat, I think, some kind, depending on how your mental aspect is, could be healthy, because it is good to have a little bit of competition with one another. But you can also have that healthy side of things where you're motivated by them, but you're like, all right, they did it, now I need to step up too. You know what I'm saying? But
that's
there's definitely two ways of going about it.
Yeah. I think like the philosophy that we've had, we're a very inclusive group here, and we're very like, I want to say empathetic. I'm not quite sure if that's the right word, but like basically, like you've got the IWEP network, we've got the High Tension Network, right? We've got Camp Leapfrog. Um, if we succeed, like basically you succeed, right? If you succeed, like you're like, oh hey, like these guys are my supporters, but they're also my friends. Like, dude, I'm going to take them with me, like, or we're going to do this. The ultimate goal is like, hey, let's do this together, because like you're going to succeed better together as a team than you are going to separately, and maybe you will too, but like the chances are better when you work together.
Yeah. And I'm not saying our door is closed, but our door was open for a lot of people, and a lot of people just didn't want to do the work. They didn't want to they didn't want to do the same level of support to one another. It was so it's not like we're closed off, but we are willing to let people in. But it's just like you got to kind of meet our energy, And if you don't, it's nothing personal. But we're gonna keep moving, because we can't wait for you anymore. Like, we're gonna let you on the train, but if you can't make the run to jump on,
right,
it's gone. Like,
you can't be the guy, like in this context of like moving forward in this career that you have to have a passion for, right? Whether it be podcasting, wrestling, or whatever. You can't be the guy that when you're in class and you're pairing off into groups, you can't be the guy who like, hey, who wants to take notes? And you just like, anybody? Like you can't be the guy who rides the coattails of the team. You have to put into work. And even if that works like a little bit, like it's something, like you have to contribute. You just can't be there for the ride.
That's one of my anxieties that I can't. I sometimes, after it's all said and done, I get really nervous and I like hate myself for a little bit, because I'm that person when and I think all three of us are this person. Like when we're part of like a meeting or a brainstorming idea, I'm like, I have something, and then you say it, and then and after I say it, I'm like, why did I open my mouth? I should have never did that. Like, but I feel like it's a decent idea for the team. And I think that's the reason why all three of us really work well together, because we have the confidence enough to pitch ideas to one another and be like, hey, did you try this? No, I didn't, but that's a good idea. Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and we're willing to work with each other.
Yeah, even if it's not a good idea, it's like, all right, cool. Well, like, because I remember in the meeting recently, it was like, oh, hey, maybe that's not the best idea, but thanks for having, the wherewithal to like offer it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've learned in meetings not to tell jokes. They don't land. Often my jokes are funny to me and nobody else.
The one joke you put in the group chat was funny, where when they talked about the gong and you put the video of the gong in there. I thought that was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah,
Well, no, okay. I was hoping it was the video of the mess up, though. That's what I was hoping for, because you were like, I've got the evidence. It wasn't me.
I simply have the evidence that it wasn't me, because I'm like, this is who was on the gong. But no, I think Maestro knows the joke that I'm referring to. I can't remember what it was. I just remember the reaction of everybody in the meeting was just like, ugh. And I'm like, oh.
I would have chuckled. I would have gave it to you.
Yeah.
Alex like, don't know him anymore.
Right.
All right.
But Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And like in that, I appreciate you both very much. I think we've built a really cool team. I think we're building something really cool together, both with the network and with Camp Leapfrog. So this is
Yeah.
really cool. So focusing back a little bit to inspiration, what specifically inspires you guys? So I'll go with Andrew first, or Maestro. Sorry, God damn it.
Nice.
I'll edit that out. Maestro, we'll go with you first.
Um, I mean, there's honestly there's a lot of things that inspire me in different ways. As far as like music goes, there's certain artists that inspire me to do different things. Like as far as songwriting goes, there's certain people. As far as like singing goes, there's certain people. So like I do have that sort of like celebrity inspiration,
Yeah.
that you can see, but I also have like I'll call it local inspiration, meaning like within people I know, like friends and that kind of stuff. Like honestly, there's so many sources of inspiration. It just depends on what you know I guess what mode you're thinking in, or what mode you're looking for. You know what I mean? Like as far as like the stuff we're building goes, like honestly, like you guys are inspirations to me because I see all of the hard work you guys put into this and the dedication, and it's like I have to match that or else I look like a lazy bum. And you know what I mean? And it's like it's inspiring to like, and like that was part of what lit that fire that I talked about earlier in like the feelings check, is like seeing this network grow. And like I had been like so stressed out and whatever past couple weeks that I haven't had as much of a hand in the stuff as I normally do. But like seeing you just take the ball and roll with it, and then like Anthony, you coming into Leapfrog and just like tackling it head on, like that's like those two ideas right there were the inspiration for me to be like, I gotta get my head back into the game here. Like it's kind of like, fell out a little bit. Not that I wasn't doing anything, but it was just, it wasn't quite where it was before. But there were other things that were just flying everywhere, and some of them were actual priorities, and some of them may not have been. And so I think there's many different sources of that inspiration. But yeah, it all depends on where you kind of where you're focusing that inspiration. Because like for example, as like a celebrity thing, um, I look to like Billy Joel as an inspiration, like when I'm writing music, because he could write music in all different styles, and he wrote for many different voices. And he was somebody that said that he doesn't actually write the songs for him. He writes them thinking of other artists. Like he'll write a song and be like, Ray Charles could sing this, and like he would want Ray Charles to sing it rather than him. But obviously, it ends up being his song. So like to me, and when I create music, that's sort of an inspiration of like I don't necessarily see myself doing this, or like just kind of like picking and choosing different things of how I come up with the different songs I create, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
um you know
I
I think a cool thing too, sorry, is I think with us three here, I think we're kind of like that Swiss Army knife. Where I think some people when how you said like I see you guys doing this and I feel like I'm not meeting that level. I think what some people can get discouraged to as well is they try to do the same thing as that person's doing, and that may not be your skill set. So if you look at us from afar, we're all three good personalities. We all host or co-host a podcast, so people think okay that's your thing, but I'm more of the I can wing things, do it on the fly, and I can promote and I can get names out there. That's kind of my strong. Alex is really good at like editing and the video editing, and you're great at the music thing. So we can all meet on a certain level, but at some point in time, it's like, all right, you go take this job, I take this job, you take that job. You know what I mean? And I think that's what sometimes people are like, I can't do the things that Tony does, or I can't do what Maestro does, and because I have that problem where I'm like, I need to learn how to edit, graphic design, this, that, and I try to take on too much. And then I kind of stunt the, like you said, it's good to be maxed out in one charisma and your one attribute if you're playing a video game, And I think that's a cool thing too. But I think if someone's motivating you, they should motivate you to do better, but you don't have to necessarily do what they're doing.
right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Anthony, what inspires you?
I would say like I'm like a sponge. I get motivated from a lot. Like I listen and try to consume to a lot of people's content. Um, and I not that I want to steal or take anything from it, but it's just like, oh, I see what they're doing there, and I want to build off that or learn or better myself or take things I like or even I don't like, and I try to build off it. So it inspires me that so many people are creating content. I try to absorb it all.
Mm,
Um, I got away from because I was very inspired at first, like with Howard Stern and Joe Rogan, and it's to the point now where I don't even listen to them, and it's nothing a knock against them. It's just because I don't. I sometimes fall in the trap where I try to be too much like what inspired me. I kind of clone too much, and now I stopped listening to maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and now it's like I want to do my own thing. So I just try to absorb as much as I can, and learn. And the storytelling aspect, like that, really inspires me, uh, for the most part. Like just listening to other people's content, really gets me going. Like I want to create something now. Like I like the way they did that. I would see if I can maybe incorporate that somehow, or ask them how they did it, so I can learn how to do it as well. Um, yeah, I don't know that it just inspires me that other people are being creative and pushing themselves to do better things.
sure. So my answer is going to be different. It's kind of going to be outside the box of what you think of when you think of inspiration. And for me, years ago, back in 2013, I was in a really hard situation, right? So what inspired me was simply survival. I just didn't want to be homeless. So I was inspired by that. Like I was inspired by like, look, I'm low. I can't get this low. Like I was inspired by like how low I didn't want to get, right? Because it was a bad situation. So that inspiration then again fueled my motivation, right? And so that's just like that was my mindset there was just like survival, survival, survival. And like a quote that kind of like inspired me for that because I was also going through a lot of pain. I had been injured on the job at work. And I had really bad back pain to the point where like there was times like I couldn't walk, like I had to crawl. I think it was Triple H. I could be wrong because of his whole game gimmick. But pain is temporary. The game is forever. That was like my mantra. All right. Um, but fast forward to now. What inspires me is this: the GCW Fight Forever. It's Leapfrog. It's you two. It's everything that we're doing now, which is literally the best point in my life. It's the freedom from the struggles that I've had in a sense, you know. Um, I was very, very focused on survival for many, many years. And then I was focused on financial stability. And once I had that all out of the way, we started the podcasting. And now we're actually at a place where I'm like, what inspires me is it's not wrestling, it's not podcasting. Actually, it's fostering a creative community and a
Yeah.
positive community. And fuck, boys, that's what we've done. You know, we fucking created a creative and inclusive and loving community in Leapfrog and High Tension in such a short time. And I'm literally living in my best moments, and it continues to fuel inspiration and motivation within itself. It's such a cool thing. So that's what inspires me. um, but I talked a little bit about my past, right? So like looking back to like maybe your childhood, maybe even now, have you guys ever had like a mentor or somebody that you looked up to that inspired you or motivated you in whatever possible way?
I always gravitated towards people who had very alpha or leadership qualities, or people who weren't afraid to take charge.
Mhm.
Um, so I always gravitated to stuff like that. But I also think a lot of my motivation as well is just like the was like growing up an athlete. But I'm sure we'll get into the motivation aspects later, so I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Sure.
I would say one of the first people who were very inspiring to me were two people, and I'm not trying to take away from my dad or my mom, but teen angst, and for a while there, I wasn't really um, close, or I didn't really turn to my parents for a while there, and I turned to a guy named Tom King, which is a great name, right? He owned a pawn shop, and I was a 14-year-old kid who go to this pawn shop, and he didn't treat me like a 14-year-old kid. He didn't treat me like like I was getting treated at school where I didn't fit in and I wasn't accepted, or I was like a loser, or I was scrawny, or I wasn't this or I wasn't that. He treated me as like, and he didn't really treat me like an employee. He kind of like took me in as like a protege. He's like, yo, you're my little wingman. Like, you're going to help work for me, but I'm also going to teach you self-confidence. I'm going to teach you how to have confidence in yourself, how to not take shit. I'm going to teach you how to, like, he kind of like, it was like, shit. It was kind of like, Bronx Tale.
I was
When,
literally thinking that the entire time you're saying
yeah,
this. I'm like, this sounds exactly like a Bronx Tale. Like you've
yeah,
gone
because
through your own Bronx Tale,
he
and
was
that's
the
awesome.
Italian dude. You know what I mean? Like
Huh.
you know what I mean? It was the same thing. He kind of brought me in and he taught me, he gave me a lot of street smarts because like we were in situations where we had to like think our way out of it, or like where, and it was weird because there was some times where like he struggled financially because like maybe he didn't make money in the shop that day. And even though I could have went up the street and got dinner at my house, I would put myself in the situation where like if he's not eating, I'm not eating type deal. So if he went hungry, I went hungry type thing. And I would just like, well, we got to hustle today. Like we got to sell some stuff. How are we going to do this? You know what I mean? And it was that mentality of that work ethic. And he kind of had the same thing too, where he had a family around him. He had his workers or people who would work with him, and they instilled this community and family. And I think that was a big inspiration for me. And then the second one for me would be my buddy's mom, Sharon. She unfortunately she passed away a couple of years ago, but she was the first person that I would call her mom, and she wasn't my birth mother. She took me in. Not only did she help me spiritually and get my mind right and get me out of like really dark depression and stuff like that, but that there was also that sense of community as well with her children. And then she was part of a church, and I was brought into that community. So like even though I'm not so much a believer of the church and the Bible and Christianity, the community that's inside those cultures are really good, and I think that's
Yeah.
why I think church and spirituality is important for people. But they were two huge influences and people who got me on the right path to be where I am right now.
For me, so when I was younger, and I think I might have talked about this a little bit on your podcast, the Wicked Turtle infamous interview on the
Part
interviews with
one and part
everyday
two,
people.
yeah.
Two whole parts of that. Um, when I was younger, I had these like a mobile therapist and like a TSS worker. It's a like a what is it, therapeutic support staff. It was a guy who basically would come in and like hang out with me. Like we'd go out on bike rides. He'd take me to movies. I saw like the Phantom Menace with him. I saw Armageddon in the theaters with him. Uh, that's important to me because this is where my love of movies and cinema came in. Um, he also taught me how to play chess. This guy's name is Scott, by the way. Um, he taught me to appreciate knowledge and like seek knowledge and that it was kind of like that's not the world I grew up in. Like if you know my family, it's not like the smart household, and that feels like it's something offensive. But it's like I learned to value things that were not what I'm used to. I wanted to be different, and a lot of my motivation was I don't want to be like what I've seen all of my life, right? Um, so I started watching like British comedy. I started, you know, uh, get this really like pompous attitude about myself. But I learned a lot from that guy. A lot of who I am today was shaped by him. He was also a very religious guy. I went to church with him. He took me to like a church camp for the summer. Like that was awesome. Then you fast forward a little bit to the professional wrestling world. That was also a mentor for me, Pinky the Flamingo Kid. Um, as much as I've talked about me kind of not holding my end of our relationship up during our training, it wasn't a relationship that ended well for me. I learned so much from that guy, and we wouldn't be here today as High Tension without World Professional Wrestling out of Reading, PA, and Pinky the Flamingo Kid. Like it just wouldn't be a
Yeah.
thing. Um, so for me, like, what are qualities that those people embodied, right? That drove me to them, and it was like intelligence is one of those things. I've always been drawn to intelligence, and compassion. I think is a major thing in like a mentor, um, being a role model. Period. Just somebody you can look up to is really important to me. And it's also because of that guy Scott that I got into the field of working with at-risk youth, and that was one of the most fulfilling careers I've ever had.
Can I have a question? I have a question. Do you think, would
Yeah.
you consider, I'm gonna deep dive you real quick. So I
Please,
want to know
oh
this.
yeah, let's do this.
Would you consider yourself a role model?
Absolutely.
For who? Who do you think are you a role model to?
Anybody who accepts it. I feel like there are some times when I'm less than appropriate, but I feel like who I am
Because this is just from
is,
the
yeah,
outside looking in. So
sure.
I've know bits and pieces of your story and your family and stuff like that, and how you're saying growing up it wasn't the greatest, and but it was there. Some of the stories you told me, most families would have disintegrated. They would have all went their own way. You're muted, by the way. Um, and yeah, they would have disintegrated. They would have went their own paths. They would have not talked to each other because you guys went through some dark stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
These
but
things have happened.
yeah, but it's crazy because now seeing you and your family, and now that your brother's back and your mom, like
Mhm.
you like I'm not speaking for Rhonda. I'm just saying how I see it. But she, even though you're her kid, you can definitely see she has pride in you, and she sees you in a different aspect as just her, not just her son.
Sure.
And I think your positive changes that you have done has changed your household. Like your brother sees you in a different light, and your mother sees you in a different light. Like most mothers and sons don't see each other in the same light that I think you and your mom see each other. I think your
Yeah.
mom actually is. You're a role model for your mom.
Yeah, dude. Try not to like cry right now because
Yeah,
you're like making me realize things that are really important to me.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's been a struggle, dude. My family has like definitely not been the best, and it's fallen apart many times. And I feel like I've, you know, I always hate putting myself out there like this, but I feel like I've been that constant, and I've had anger issues. I've not always been the best, but I've always kind of wanted to work on that. And there was a point where, again, back in 2013, when I lost my job and I lost everything, I kind of relied on. I mean, I got rid of Rhonda. I got rid of Jackie. I got rid of my brother, kind of, and that was good for me because I got to be independent. And I didn't have a good view of my family at all. I resented them for many reasons, and then I was doing my own thing, and I was really successful at that until I wasn't, and then I needed them. I needed Rhonda. I was like, hey, like she's living with some guy out in Pittsburgh. Jared was in a rehab, and Jackie's living with her because Jackie can't just do things on her own anymore.
Hmm.
And now I needed her. I needed Rhonda. I needed help, and I had to go live with her in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh area. And it was a really bad situation. Rhonda didn't see it. The guy she was with was incredibly mentally abusive. Um, and I stayed there for a little while, probably about half a year. I got a job. I saved up money. I got a car that was on the verge of breaking down when I bought it. But I got the hell out of there, man. I got out of there because I couldn't change the situation for anybody, nor did I want to. I was just like, I had went from a really bad situation of being homeless to like being in a worse situation. Um, I still wasn't ready to be a part of that family, and I had lost who I was, man, because I just gained my independence just a few years earlier, and now I'm like, oh man, I'm freaking lost, right? And so I left. I took this opportunity, which is a weird opportunity to have taken. In many circles, you would think that this is inappropriate. My best friend at the time, Dan, his girlfriend's family had offered to take me in. Uh, so I had moved from the Reading area to the Pittsburgh area. Now I'm in the Delaware County, Marcus Hook area, um, with my best friend's girlfriend and her family. It was just like this weird opportunity, but you know what? They welcomed me in like a family. They were religious, and I wasn't. But This is the place. Now I'm telling my story. This is like my fucking podcast now. But this is the place where I learned I didn't have to be religious, but man, I could be spiritual because these people were my fucking angels. Um, trying not to cry. uh, fucking A, man. John Llewellyn and Michelle, they were my freaking angels, dude. They lifted me up. My car that was on the verge of breaking down broke down. I had just gotten a job, and 3 weeks later it broke down. So they bought me a car. I They worked on paying them back. I paid them back. They bought me a freaking car. They gave me a house to live in, and uh, I was with them for I think about a year. I was able to get myself out of there, and once I got myself out of there, another half a year, maybe a year passes, and I get a call that Jackie is in a mental institution. She had went to a hospital because of something had happened, nothing major, but she was angry, and with her dementia, she'll just say whatever, right? So she tells the staff there that Rhonda and her boyfriend abuse her, they steal her money, all this shit. Basically, because she was mad at Rhonda and she didn't want to see her and she knew that this would get them out of there. What she didn't realize is she has dementia and now they're putting her in protective custody. And so then I get that call and I'm like, well, it's my grandmother. I'm going to do anything for my grandmother, right? So I go to Pittsburgh and I pick her up, and the state releases her to me with the caveat that like she has to have a suitable place to live, right? So I made an arrangement with one of her sisters, and I got her to live there, but I would manage the finances and all that stuff. And that was another like half a year passed, and that wasn't working out anymore because Jackie was too much to handle for her sister, and now the state wasn't really involved. So I'm like, well, Rhonda had came to visit when this whole blowout happened. So then Jackie came to live with me in my 2-bedroom apartment with me and my roommate, and then Rhonda's staying there. And so now it's just like now we have to figure something out. So I had to, get rid of my apartment and get this house, and this is all out of like necessity. Like I had to give up my independence. I had to give up like everything, and now it's just like fuck, man. Now I got to like take care of my family because my family can't take care of themselves, and that was my reality. So like I've gotten myself out of this like survival mode, and I was just trying to be financially, and I was financially well off by myself. Like I'm like spending $500 a paycheck on fucking the Freddy Krueger clause signed by Robert England. But now that all stopped, and now I'm taking care of my family, and that's when we got this house in 2017. I was already doing like the podcast with the Penguin, and fast forward to the last couple of years, man. Here we are, and I'm finally just now back in a state of actually being happy, and it's due to teaming up with Andrew, damn it, Maestro, and yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to downplay the fact that your acceptance of me has also really helped me be a better version of me, and your support of me, Maestro, has been instrumental in me having the confidence to do what we're doing. So,
Well, so the way I see it, going back to qualities, and you just literally embodied these two qualities that I look for just in somebody who inspires me. One of them is passion, like just passion for the subject or just passion for life in general. And like, you didn't have to know that whole story to see that for you, but like to just hear that whole thing, that you just put that out there for everybody in order to hopefully help people and make it so that they can have a better life. You know what I mean? Like that passion right there. And the second thing is authenticity. You know what I mean? Which like all like, the emotions are authentic. It's not like you're, crocodile tearing, like all of that stuff you just did, right? Like passion and authenticity in everybody that I look for inspiration from, and which I saw a lot of that in teachers. It was the passion for the subject, or just the authenticity of like, I don't have to be this fake whatever, like I'm a real person too, and like right there was just everything So even if there was any questions of whether you would be a role model or not, like to me, that's grade A right there. Just literally both of those things just came out in
Yeah.
that entire story was the passion that you have, not only for like wrestling, but the passion you have for this subject. And the reason why you started this whole thing, this whole high tension wellness, was in order to create a better community for people to just be better selves. You know what I mean? And like, and that passion, like I saw that passion when you even just had that idea. But like the fact that you've taken this ball and you've now rolled with it, and you have this passion to be a podcaster, you have this passion to do all this other stuff, but you don't change who you are. You stay authentically you. You know what I mean? Like you talked about how your family previously embarrassed you and whatever, or
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. But like you stay true to you, and like a lot of people can see through the bullshit of
Mhm.
people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like some people think in order to do one thing or another, they have to fake who they are. They have to do whatever it is.
Sure.
And more often than not, as long as you're authentic and as long as you're passionate about something, like to me at least, those are the qualities that I think even subconsciously most people look for in somebody, as far as like a role model or just inspiration, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, one, thank you for all that. It means like the world to me. But to be authentically me is probably the most important thing to me. I growing up, I had no idea who I was. It was always a struggle, and to some extent, back in probably like 2014 is when I started to be like, I'm going to be unapologetically me, right? Unapologetically me eventually lost me my best friend Dan, who, like his girlfriend and now his wife, his family is just like everything to me. And it's just like I lost all that because I was like, I'm gonna be me, 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 because I thought me was like this funny guy who's like brash and just says whatever like comes to his head, and that wasn't me actually. Me is like somebody who's humble and compassionate, and I care about other people. Like that's why like cancel culture, like I don't know, like I don't love it, but I respect people's feelings because it's important to me that people feel accepted and feel safe, for whoever they may be. Like I hate judgment, like that. A judgment free zone. That's like my fucking motto, dude. Um, I struggled a lot with like who am I and who should I be? How are people going to perceive me? And now it's like I don't care. I'm just going to be me, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, meh.
And the people who you're meant to be with are going to gravitate towards you, and the people who
Yeah,
you're not meant to be with, then it's better off for you in the end.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Anthony,
No,
I,
and
I
I'm
hate
really
you.
happy. I'm happy that I'm happy my camera angle is like higher than this because the bottom of my eyes are so wet. Because I was starting to lose it too, so I was like staying here cool. I was like, just don't pick your head up because they won't see you're getting emotional.
Nope.
No, yeah, man. Like I said, you're definitely you're a flame. You know what I mean? Either sometimes your light isn't shining bright because you're the way you feel about yourself, but in a dark room, you definitely illuminate it. And I think that positive energy is bringing more positive people around you. I think just from meeting you alone, I have encountered more like-minded people in this past year than I've ever encountered ever before. Like when I first met you, I was like, "There's something to this guy. Like we're meant to hang out. We're meant to do something." And then the first time I met Meister, I was like, I called you right away. I was like, I like that dude. Like, I want to get to know. Like, and I know our friendship is still in a blooming phase. We're still learning about each other, and I think a lot of what you're going to see on camera with this podcast network is us learning from each other. Um, and I don't know, I just met so many cool people that were like kind of joining our communities together since in this short span that it's exciting. I think you're like a lighthouse, man. You're just you bring a lot of positivity and not only that, like you do good things, man.
Much appreciated, my dude. And man, you have a way of bringing that out of people. You know,
My deep dives. I had my Oprah moment here.
Jesus, you really do. You're like, I'm going to deep dive into you for a second. 5 seconds later, I'm like,
But
uh,
and I wasn't just doing that to do it too. Like it was literally on my spirit. Like I wanted to say it because I think it needed to be said. because like I said, that I think if people see you and your family, like
Sure.
you're always together, like like when you tell me your past and just that whole story, you wouldn't know if you just met you at like a wrestling show and you got to see you, your grandmother, your mom, and your brother, you wouldn't know that dynamic was where it was now of where it was back in the day, because you guys are
Mhm.
tight. You know what I mean? You have each other's back. Like I said, like it's a nice little deep dive for
Yeah.
people to see like progression and and be empathy and kind of forget some of the bullshit and let it go and move forward and accept people for their flaws and let them develop and let them grow. Kind of like in episode 1, we talked about like where's the cutoff line between empathy and where people can change.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you're a great embodiment of it. Like your brother is a great example of that. Like he hit rock bottom and he did a lot
Mhm.
of fucked up things and he did stuff to your family and stuff. And like you guys could have been like, yo, we're done. Get out of
Yeah.
here. But he's home now and he's doing amazing for himself. And I think a lot of that is because the positive energy you put out. I think he definitely resonated with that. He's like, if my big brother can do it, I could do it.
Yeah. And I hope that's the case. That's really been kind of my goal, not to be overbearing, but to be a role model. So like when you asked that, I was just like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
role model, but it's like, shit, man. When I got into it, I was like, man, it's deeper than that. Like,
Yeah.
but so with that, talking about what embodies a role model, and the story that I just told, my next question for you guys is to tell me about something that has inspired you to a point of being the reason for a major life change or a major life choice.
You can go first in this one, Maestro.
Man, I gotta think about that one. I don't know. Because there's been a couple different things, because like this will be more of like a um, sort of like a physical transformation sort of thing. Like I growing up, not that like it's like changed drastically now, but I've always been like the bigger person, and like a lot of people struggle with weight and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really struggle with it too much. I didn't really think anything of it until, I started having like started getting back pain. Now I got this back pain from a stupid thing. Like I didn't get it from being too big, but I just, it didn't help that
Yeah, the weight doesn't help.
the
Does not
weight did
help.
not help this back pain. But I never did anything about it because truthfully, I didn't really care enough about myself physically to make any sort of change with it because everything else in my life at that time was great.
Mhm.
And then so then I had a lot going on. It was definitely different than what it is now. I'll tell you that. But because I'm trying to figure out exactly the pinpoint moment. But there were like there was like a bunch of changes without going into like way too much. A bunch of changes, and then it made me take a step back and look at like, well, what was sort of the root cause of maybe some of these problems? And I think it was because of how I viewed myself physically, and that like appearance factor. And it was just something where like, unhealthy behaviors mentally stemmed from how I thought of myself and all that stuff. So I made an active choice to try to physically get better because I never realized the connection between the physical and the mental health.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I didn't realize it was as strong as.
Disappeared.
Oh,
I'm sure he'll come back in a second. Good, you can finish now. The audience doesn't, the audio has no idea what's happening right now.
that's true. He'll
Yeah.
probably edit that out anyway.
Yeah.
So basically, I realized the connection between the physical and the mental health, and I started to, eat better. And then I ended up, losing like 50 pounds
Oh wow.
in over the course of, I don't know, like 6-7 months or so. And like I did it through a diet thing, then like I started to feel better about myself, and I noticed a lot of mental things were changing too. Like my back pain was starting to go away. It's not completely gone, but it's like way less than it was. And And then things like mentally were better. And then like literally all of this stuff happened, you know what I mean? So it was just about like, and then like I would say, when he was talking about this is one of the best points of his life, this is one of the best points of my life is doing this. Cause like most of this stuff that I'm doing, if not all of it, has been a dream of mine since I was young, like to be part of something with wrestling, you know what I mean? And like the fact that I've carved a little etch right now, however long this lasts, it lasts, but I'm riding the wave and I'm enjoying every moment of it. And that was something I never used to do, was just enjoy every moment of like, the good things that were going on. And I took some of those things for granted. So, um, and I think that all stemmed from a better self-perception of myself there, because if I put out a better self-perception of myself, other people will see that. And I think, it just happened when, the Kilowatt and I rekindled our friendship, that I was coming up that hill of the sort of like self appreciation, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
I was just coming off that big valley. And I think that may have been sort of a catalyst, because I think if we rekindled it maybe like 6 months earlier, 9 months earlier, I'm not sure this whole thing would have happened. I'm not sure he would have been even motivated to talk to me again, let alone like want to like do something like this and try this opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
everything.
definitely in the same boat as you when it comes to that. I was always growing up. I was always I wouldn't say I was like muscular or strong or anything, but I was always very athletic. I was thin. I was small. I was everything. But mentally, I was a shit show. I couldn't get anything right. I was angry. I had a chip in my shoulder. I hated the world. I hated everything. I didn't feel accepted. Like it was just I was a mental psychopath. And then, and I mean I still kind of am, but I'm working at it. But like now I'm at a point where I wouldn't say I hit rock bottom when it comes to social status. Like I didn't lose my financially. I didn't lose a job. Like I kind of lost a job, but I left a job. But mentally, I hit my rock bottom. My depression was worse than it's ever been. My weight, my body pain, everything was the worst. I left the job I was at. I had a lot of conflicting issues with people who worked there, who didn't want the best for me, and I became very goal oriented. So the first start of my mental change was you're going to set a goal and you're going to hit it. And I set a goal, and it was a goal at my job. And I thought I was on a really good track of doing it. I was skyrocketing up, like I was doing really well. I was knowledgeable. I thought I was good at my job, and I didn't hit that goal. And it wasn't just because I wasn't good at it or I wasn't qualified or anything like that. And some people would maybe disagree, saying I wasn't, but I thought I was in a good spot, and I didn't get it. And I always felt like I didn't get it because it wasn't a lack of trying or a lack of skill. It was because just I was kind of being held back a little bit. And so I left. I was like, you know what? I don't think there's anything here for me. And I left that job and went to another one. And when I got there, I was like, this is not like everything about this job. I felt like would have been the best thing for me. I could interact with people more. I can be myself. I'm going to use my communication skills and not my body, because everything I've ever done before was like grunt labor and physical labor, and my body just has a hard time doing that. And I thought this job would be perfect, and I was like, this is not satisfying at all. Like I thought talking to people would have been great, but it wasn't something I was passionate about. I was kind of being told what I had to tell these people, and everybody at that job was great and they gave me great opportunities. It just wasn't for me. And I was like at a point where I was like, do I have to leave this job? Like I just got here. I'm only here a year or two. Like I don't want to quit again. Like my mental aspect was getting shitty. And I just started doing the podcast, and I felt like the podcast was really helping me mentally talk about my problems, getting out there and hearing other people's problems, and moving on. And then COVID happened. I had to leave my job, kind of like, hey man, we're done. You got to go. And I was like, crap, what do I do now? Um, so I think in that time, that 2 year span I was at that previous job, I did a lot of mental growth. I think I got myself in a better place mentally. And now I'm back where I was before at the job where I've set those goals. But I'm coming into the job with a different mindset this time. I'm not coming in where it's a do or die situation. And I have to hit that goal I didn't hit before. but I feel like it was the one thing that beat me, and now I'm going back into it, and I feel like I'm handling it. My body's handling it. I'm mentally handling it. Everything's doing great. I feel really confident. Um, but it's now I'm at the point where I feel like I have my mental aspect down. Now I want to start tackling, and I think when it comes to like medication and working on getting my body right and my pain management and everything, now I'm ready that I showed myself that I can do something that never necessarily wasn't an income, like a job. Like this podcast makes me a couple bucks here or there and I put it back into the podcast, but like this isn't paying my bills. I would love for it to one day pay my bills, but it showed me that I can step out of my comfort zone for 3 years and do something that I was passionate about doing, that scared me, that I was afraid to jump into. And now I'm ready to be like, if you could do this for 3 years and you didn't think you could do it, now let's work on something else. And I think my next step is going to be like the physical part. Like physically I was good for a while, but mentally I wasn't. And now I'm good mentally. Now I got to work on physically. So I'm kind of flip flopping there. Like it's always just that constant evolution.
Yeah, dude, I totally get that. All right, so we've all kind of had these major changes in our lives, whether it's been physical, mental, emotional, what have you. They're all incredibly valid. Something I've actually read online recently, and somebody had said, like, don't minimize other people's experiences based on your own. And I think that's incredibly important. Like, no matter what I'm going through, whatever you're going through is just as important to you or just as impactful to you as my experience is to me. And I know that at a full, transparency here, one of the things that led to me losing that friend I spoke about earlier is a wedge that was driven in between our friendship with me minimizing their trauma from their childhood because it didn't, in my mind, amount to the trauma that I experienced. And I was not sympathetic or empathetic at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned the hard way that I need to be better. And
Have you ever tried reaching out and fixing that?
so we still keep up to date.
That's
Uh,
good.
we definitely still keep up to date. But it's like maybe once every 6 months or so. Like we're not hanging out. We're not doing anything like
Have
that.
you had that I'm sorry I messed up conversation?
No, because the main situation that broke it off is something was told to him that I said something that I don't believe I said. I still don't believe I said it. And but that person's credibility was, I guess, more so than mine. And that told me everything I needed to know, and I guess that was everything he needed to know. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. I'm not going to get into it on a podcast,
No,
but
no, I understand.
so again, just some important words of wisdom, I guess. And speaking of words of wisdom, inspirational quotes before we move on to motivation. Anything that inspires you to hear that changes your mental state. We're not talking about physical yet. We'll get into physical shortly, but like that it alters your mental state or helps enrich your life. I'll go first. For me, it's Bruce Lee. It's always going to be Bruce Lee. It just works for me, man. So the quote is this: empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. Now put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or water can crash. Be water, my friend. I mean, to me, a lot of that means to kind of take experiences as they come, take opportunities as they come. Don't put your own like whatever's into that, your own expectations into whatever's coming your way. Just accept it. So like for me, it was like, okay, we're doing a podcast. This podcast gave me this opportunity to interview Martin Kleba. I took that opportunity. That gave me the opportunity to flow that into, oh, let's brand this thing. It's going to be Wicked Turtle, right? I took that opportunity and flowed it right on over to PPW. PPW gave me this opportunity to create high tension, and here we are, like all these things happened, right? And I'm seeing them happen. And rather than being like, that's risky or whatever, I just went with that flow. I became whatever container was next for me. You know what I mean? Like I took the shape of every opportunity that came my way. And I will continue to do so, because the philosophy now is like, we started out as this, we're going to be a wrestling company, right? And then we became Camp Leapfrog, and well, now we're going to be a podcast network. Oh, now we're going to be a podcast wrestling network. But like, we're constantly taking every opportunity that comes our way, and that is the seed of growth. Like that's where growth comes from. I think it's the most poignant quote that sums up my last few years of success.
I know I gave you a video of a clip that meant a lot to me, but I don't know it by heart. But I did look up something
Sure.
real quick.
I
So for
have
me,
it here. Yeah.
yeah. So if you want to read it, you can. I do think it's a good quote, but I do have something real quick. Someone who's obviously I'm very inspired as well by Bruce Lee. There's two other people that have really inspired me as well. One being Muhammad Ali, and then one being Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
I was taught Michael Jordan, and then was taught the game of basketball. So I think, and it's two quotes that kind of go hand in hand with each other. And he says here, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. And just to hear him say that is awesome, because you think of Michael Jordan, you think of hitting the the buzzer beater to win the championship. You think of all of his accomplishments, but he doesn't regret or forget about his shortcomings. Especially in a world where he's always compared as him and LeBron are the GOAT. And LeBron has this many wins, and it's like, but there's more to that than him. Like it's being a teammate, it's being motivating, it's doing all that. And then the second quote to this is, I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something. What I cannot accept is not trying. And they're my two hand in hand quotes by Michael Jordan that I think are really that keep me moving.
Yeah. Yeah, there's another one for me, philosophically, in a sense, another Bruce Lee one that says, it's like a finger pointing the way to the moon. Don't focus on the finger, or you'll miss out on all that heavenly glory.
I can go all day long with Bruce Lee. I have a book
Right.
of Bruce Lee stuff, and pretty much the whole book is you go to like love or hate or anxiety. And it's literally just quotes on just that topic that Bruce Lee has talked about.
Dude had it figured out, man.
Mm-hmm.
Anything from you, Maestro? I know I have something for you. I think more hand in hand with motivation. But if you wanna tackle that, it leads right into the next topic.
Yeah, I mean, because I think it works both ways. But the main quote I always remind myself of is, I think it goes, "Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard."
Yeah.
And that was something, like when I grew up, I didn't really have any. I had a very privileged life growing up. Things came easy to me. Grades came easy to me. School came easy to me. All that stuff came easy to me. I did sports. I did music, whatever. I was involved in everything. I was always told that I was talented. So part of me would not necessarily work as hard. And then as I grew up to become an adult, you start to see more of that manifest, where it's not just enough to be talented, and that in order to get to where you want to go, you've got to continue to work hard. And I saw people that I know were maybe not as necessarily good at what they do as I was, but they were getting these opportunities and they were doing these things because they put in the work. And you can't fault them for that. They put in way more work than I did. And that's why they were getting ahead. So like, for me, it works both ways. It works for the inspiration to continue to work hard, because sometimes there's times where I'm like, I don't know if I really want to work this hard, and I can get by on some of this other stuff. But it's like, no, if you don't continue to work hard, it's not going to go anywhere. You're just going to kind of stay here, and like it's just kind of like never settling for complacency. You know what I mean? Like before I would have been okay with settling for just kind of like, okay, I'm here. Now it's you just don't want to settle for complacency. Just keep working hard, and things will keep going in a way.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I had sent you that a video as well, but it's like a really really long video. There's a bunch of different nuggets in there though, that like I don't know if you were gonna
Yeah. Well, actually,
kind of
like,
pick anything from it, or
I,
like if there's anything.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you a story that piggybacks off of what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll get into that because I think we have a lot to talk about right now, and it's awesome. And we're like an hour and 18 minutes in. I love it. But so when it
This show's
comes,
only been once a month, so it gives
right,
enough content for the next one.
that's right. Now this is of great wealth, I think. So back in, let's say, 2012, I'm working at a youth development center, right? And basically, I have 18 kids from the age of like 10 to 21 that are to be managed by me and two other adults for like an 8 to 12 hour period of time, right? And I'm running. I was running like bathroom time or showers or something, and my supervisor comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's going okay." He's like, "All right, well, listen, be better." And he just walked away, and I'm like, "I okay, be better, whatever." Next day, he comes back to me, he's just randomly chatting. He's like, "All right, man, cool. Listen, be better." And I'm like, "Okay, hold on. What am I doing wrong here? Like, what's the issue, right?" And again, it repeated itself the next day or two, and now I'm getting pissed off. I'm like, "All right, hey, man, dude, what's going on? Like, I'm really getting pissed off at you. This is ignorant. Like, I'm doing my job, right?" But I was complacent. I wasn't. I was just doing my job. So I just was like, all right, well, look, I'm going to come in next week, right? And by the end of next week, you're not going to tell me to be better anymore. You're just not. It's not going to happen, right? Well, 2 weeks later, I'm still being told to be better. And I'm like, dude, I'm at my best right now mentally. I'm like, you can't tell me I'm not at my best. But I was starting to really like use this be better as a mantra, even though I was getting mad at it. It was like, all right, be better, be better. I'm going to be better. To the point where after a month of this be better, I would write be better right here every day. And I was like, all right, be better. I'm going to be better, whatever. Um, so I did. I got better and I got better. By the end of the month, I was offered a promotion. It's like, oh, you want to be, a team leader? Yeah, no, this is great. Yeah, you've been doing really good, and we've noticed like you're better than you've ever been. You're like just outstanding or whatever. Oddly enough, after I got that position, I was I was fired, and that's when all that other story I told earlier took place. Not for any point of mine, actually. It was not even going to get into it, but the reason I got fired wasn't my fault. But but that's my whole thing. Like, I talk about wanting to get into motivational speaking. That was just like a really brief overview of like the be better story, but that be better story is very important to me. And I think that'll be the cornerstone of Alex's motivational speaking, is the be better initiative, because no matter how good you are, you can always be better. Nobody is the best.
I see a T-shirt coming where it says "Be Better, High Tension Wellness" on the back.
Oh, damn you, you son of a bitch. All right, we'll do it. Yeah, the Be Better initiative, baby. I'm all about it. And that was very important to me. It was a driving force in my professional career, is that I'm never the best. Even when I am at my best, I can always be better. And that's how I feel today with what we're doing now. The fire's lit. And speaking about the fire being lit, what necessarily, we talked about what inspired you guys, but what motivates you guys? Like, what keeps the fire lit when you're going after something, whether it be physical fitness, something, a mental aspect, professionally, or with the wrestling? Like, what keeps the fire lit, man? What keeps you guys going?
For me personally, creating this network.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is how it's perceived with my team, but I feel like I put the team on my back. Like, I look at it as I have a group of people who take time away from their friends, time away from their family, time away from their personal lives to be at my table to record once a week. So I would, it would be a disservice to them and their time is if I didn't do everything in my absolute power to make sure that this doesn't work. Or their message or their stories or their hard work that they put into this podcast isn't heard. So I take that mantle on. And then now that being a part of high tension, like I see high tension as the same way as I see IWET, yeah, IWEP. I almost said IWTV.
That's a T-shirt.
Yeah. Um,
IWET.
yeah, IWET. I put the team in my back. Like I want to. I just did 2 podcasts recently where I was featured as like a guest and it wasn't actually mine. And they're like, "Where can we find you?" And I was like, "Just search IWEP. I'm there, and also you can check me out in the High Tension Wrestling Network." You know, it's like that's my branding now. Like I feel proud to be a part of it. And now with the leapfrog thing, like I I I put the pressure on myself to make sure my edits are good, to make sure my work is done right, to make sure I'm learning and doing the best I can and learn my equipment better than I had it before. Um,
Mhm.
because my video of my like it sounds silly, but like I think I could pretty much talk about it now because it's out there. But like I took a video on my camera that was used for someone to a scouting report so their match can so his opponent in an upcoming match can see his footage to see how they could work and how they could put on a great performance. And then I seen the performance of this guy and his opponent on another show, and the whole time I'm thinking is my hard cam captured that moment that I was able to send to him so he can have his match. And it may seem like something very minor to someone or even the people who were involved, but to me that meant the world. You know what I mean? Because like
Mhm.
my I went out and spent all my money on this really really nice camera that was then used to create a moment that it was used not only on the show that it's coming up for people to see, but a moment that was seen on WrestleMania weekend at Bloodsport 6. Like that's awesome to me. You know what I mean? Like I and it was somebody I really enjoy their work. So when I was told that's who it was going to, I was like, that just happened. You know what I mean? Like so that just keeps motivating me to get better and use the tools I have and get better at with the tools I have to not just bring uplift myself and get myself over because
Yeah.
I know if I get myself over, I'm bringing everybody with me.
So it's like, I kind of understand what you're saying. So like you use your supporters and your team as something to hold yourself accountable to in a sense.
Mhm.
I know that initially I wanted to do my first incarnation of high tension wellness at another network. Would have been this way of Alex to lose weight and use the fact that it was in the public eye to hold myself accountable. That never ended up happening, but here we are on this really cool show that we're doing.
Yeah.
But I totally get that, man. I totally understand that. And to also be motivated by the doors that are opening because of your hard work and your talents, it's pretty cool too.
Yeah. It's like that photo you see is where it's like someone with a carrot and they just see like the guy's holding his like this carrot and it's like I have my carrot and it's grown and look how big it is and I'm going to eat tonight and the guy
Mhm.
next to him all he has is the stem but what you don't see underneath that dirt is that carrot is 16 times bigger than the one the other guy's holding but the what that carrot represents is all the hard work and time you put into your growing your carrot. It's just not ready to sprout yet but when it does it's going to be massive and that's kind of something a mental image in my head that keeps going. It's like you're right there, man. Like I can feel it. Like I can feel it just not just for me, but for all of us. Like this is about to happen, and I'm just being patient and just I got. But you can't become a complacent. You got to be better. You got to keep watering your plant. You got to put your fertilizer down. You got to come back every single day and put your time in to make sure that everything that you work for doesn't go for waste.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just kind of circles back to what we alluded to at the beginning is, surrounding yourself with people to motivate you because you see the things that they're doing. And like, I always feel I need to match that energy that the people around me are putting out, you
Mhm.
know?
Can I
So
interject real quick, just so
yeah,
I don't lose my? At so you guys got to experience this 5 times already, or 6 times with Camp Leapfrog. But I used to get this feeling playing soccer or basketball is when you step on the court, even if it's a street ball game or you step on the field or anything, with any sport, for me, that's where I can relate to because I played sports, is right before that whistle blows and that game is about to start and that first pass happens. So you just take your first strides down the field or down the court. You get that like butterfly and you're amped up, your adrenaline's going, you just want to go, go, go. I haven't experienced that in so long because I couldn't do sports. But that day at Leapfrog, like that was what was happening in my body the whole time. Like I just wanted to run through a wall. Like I felt like I could have taken on like if you would have put me in and been like, you're in a ring fight, I would have done everything in my power to make sure I win that fight. You know what I mean? Like it had me such such a high energy level because everybody there had it as well. It was so intoxicating.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say just for me, literally every time we do an event, a leapfrog event, it's always the most high octane thing I end up doing for, whatever month or so it is, just because like I'm all like I always feel like I'm running around with like a chicken with its head cut off. Like
Yeah.
I'm just buzzing everywhere trying to see this thing or try to do this thing or try to help with this thing, and just like um and then also making sure like it's going well. Like, and
Yeah.
that's like, it's just, yeah, it is, but like everybody else matches that energy, like it, but it's
If you can
also a
bottle that, we'd be
good,
millionaires.
yeah, right, like, and people could just like drink it or like sniff it or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's, I don't know.
And I've been back, and this is not a knock to PPW or Outbreak, but I've been backstage at Outbreak at PPW, and it's not even, it wasn't even the same. It was a completely different thing. Like it was different, and there was no fans, no crowd. I don't know. It was it was an interesting experience. I can't explain it.
I just think it's with the people you surround
Surround yourself
yourself
with,
with.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
really do, because like the everybody we surround ourselves with at Leapfrog has the same vision, the same mentality about Leapfrog, that like we all share the vision, and we all put in as much work as we possibly can in our different little departments, whether you're a
Mhm.
wrestler, whether you're a production person, whether you're producing, whether you're whatever your role may be. Like
Yeah.
everybody still shares that same vision, and puts in 110%, even plus effort, to
Mhm.
make sure that it can be as big a success
I don't
as
I don't
possible. You know
I
what I
don't I
mean?
don't know if this contributes to it, but everyone has value at Leapfrog. Like, there's
Mhm.
not somebody who's just like, okay, this is the jobber, or, because like even our loser of Camp Leapfrog, he still has a participation trophy because he has value, right?
Yeah.
You know,
And he's one of the most featured people across Leapfrog, and he hasn't won a
absolutely.
match.
But like,
Like, it's not about the wins and losses.
everybody has value. Phil Stamper, like every single person.
And there's someone who's contagious too when it comes to energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
man. Like,
cannot be
I
around
was gonna
Phil
say
and be like, I want to become better.
I was
You
gonna
know what I
say,
mean?
talk about another inspiration. Like
He should
that
be on it. He
man.
should be on an episode of Wellness.
oh, I'd love that. I'd
Yeah.
love that. Um, yeah, I just everybody has value, and that's very important to me. I don't know who I was talking about that with recently, but that was like our goal from the beginning. Is just even with high tension, is everybody matters. Like
Mhm.
everybody gets over in a sense. It's just nobody's left behind here. Everybody's family. I know a lot of locker rooms say that, as you hear on the Chandler episode of Moran and Friends. Every
You're
locker room says that
so
your
diggity, isn't it?
family. It bothers me because we say it at Leapfrog, but I know everybody thinks they mean it, but we really do. The talent gets it when they're
Well, here's
there.
the thing too. An owner can say that, right? But as an owner, you have to I guess what their argument was with their speech was, sure, you're telling me I'm your family, but you as an owner, when I reached out to you, you ignored me for 6 months.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so when it comes down to that speech, as you as an owner, or you as a part of the ownership or anything, you have to reciprocate that. And I think where Leapfrog goes leaps and bounds above that is Chris is always a message away. You can literally message him at any time. He will read it and respond to you. The hospitality of where Leapfrog is held. Like people are walking around making sure everyone's comfortable. They're making sure the environment's good. Everyone's tested. Everyone's clean. Everyone needs a place to go if they have to do. And they go. The facility goes above and beyond to make sure everyone's good. It's not just like, hey, we're in a building, go use that broom closet. You know what I mean? Like everything there is just like with the respect and the comfort of everyone at first. You know what I mean? And I think that's where I feel like not only does the ownership embody it, but I also think the locker room buys into it as well, because you need to put that same energy back.
Yeah.
Where if you want this to be a family, you got to breathe. You have to live and breathe that family. Like I was only there at one
family.
Yeah, I was only there one time, and every single time I put a tweet out now on Twitter, 4 or 5 people in that locker room are the first ones to like, retweet, and share it. And it's just like they're putting me over because I put them over, type deal. Where like we all just help each other, and that when it comes to talent, and when it comes to everybody, like, everyone just has each other's back, and it's awesome.
Yeah, you make genuine connections, and
Yeah,
it shows. I don't think it's about putting people over. It's people genuinely being people with people.
Yeah, I just sent you a photo. If you want to pop it up, that's actually a pretty nice photo. Kind of what we're talking about right now on your phone.
Oh, that is a cool photo. Yeah, I'll pop it in here. I have it somewhere. Keep talking though.
Yeah.
So I'll pop up the photo shortly. But again, when it comes to motivation, for me, some of the things that help light that fire for me to keep it going are, again, quotes, motivational quotes, music, art, my driving force in life. When people ask, like, who is Alex, right? I get annoyed when people go, Alex is that wrestling guy, right? But Alex is the wrestling guy because that's one of my many mediums that I'm successful at when it comes to my art and my creativity. Like, when you ask who is Alex, Alex is creation. Like that's what I'm all about, creation, right? But one quote that fires me up, that keeps me going, was Scott Hall, right? Scott Hall. Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. That lights a fire under me, man.
That was his Hall of Fame speech, right?
It was at the very end of his Hall of Fame speech. That literally has gotten me through some tough times. Like when I say that to myself in the mirror, it just lights a fire under me. Like I could be in the darkest of dumps, and I'm like, no, man, I'm ready. I'm a bad dude, right? But when you do that, when you say a quote like that, that serves as not only motivation, right? But it's also positive self-talk. It's what we call an affirmation. So next I want to talk about the power of affirmation, which is, again, it's positive self-talk. Like, have you guys used positive self-talk as means of like getting yourself going or feeling better about yourself, or as a means of like therapy at all? Because I know that I never really believed in it. I thought it was hocus pocus. But for me lately, it's like last couple of years, it's been very important.
Diego Sanchez for me is the guy who showed me positive affirmation and speaking on his way to the cage. Yes, 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 yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years later, it carried over to the world of professional wrestling with Daniel Bryan. Like the yes movement. Don't tell yourself no. Don't tell yourself you can't do something. It's there. When I'm at work or when I'm growing up playing sports and I'm tired and I'm exhausted, the whole idea where it's like, hey, pain is temporary, but success is glorious forever is the way I was always told it. Yeah, you're gonna be tired. Your muscles are gonna be sore, but you got 3 minutes left in this game, and if you don't give every single last bit of energy you have in these last 3 minutes, it's all for nothing. Because when you feel right now like you're gonna die, but 15 minutes after that whistle blows and you calm down and you get your heart back, you're gonna feel like, man, I should have never let those 3 minutes go to waste. So always tell myself, man, you got this. Push, you got this. I mean, that was always something I've always said in my head, like, you got this. Keep going, keep going. You're not. I was never the biggest guy. I was never the strongest, but you were never gonna outwork me when I played sports. Like, and it just kind of where I always was. Like, I was gonna be a pest on your side the entire time I was on that whatever field I was at.
Yeah, man, outwork everyone. Christian Cage.
Christian Cage outworked. That's why I love professional wrestling, man.
Sorry, Maestro.
Yeah.
Pictures just went right over
like
your
Mike
head.
Wazowski.
Yeah.
I'm on TV.
That photo right there means so much to me. That
You're
means the world.
right here.
Right where? I
Oh,
know.
you're
I can
right.
see where I am.
Oh, you can't see my cursor. I'm an idiot.
No,
I'm
can't
sorry.
see
Yeah.
your cursor. No.
Yeah. That means that was the first time I ever stepped inside of a wrestling ring.
Wow,
I've
really?
never been inside a wrestling ring. That was the first time ever.
And it was ours.
It was, and it was on my favorite wrestling mat of all time. That Robin egg
It's
baby
true. That
blue.
old WWF mat,
Yeah, it was great.
which we defiled with a frog.
Yeah.
I love it though. I love it.
Yeah.
I love how it
Well,
looks.
Yeah.
I saw one of the comments of the first match of Frog Sport
Yeah.
yesterday that somebody was like, I love that ring.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It was even better after a beer spilled on it.
Sam Laterna. Here's the shout out. You're supposed to spill the tea, not the beer.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was Trajan.
It was Trajan.
It was
totally
Trajan, yeah.
She cleaned it, so good for
She
her.
did clean it up.
Can I do a wrestling quote real quick?
Yeah.
So this is another guy where I always say empathy and hard work and change. This guy was never the most he was the most popular, but I guess when people growing up, I didn't know the dirt sheets. I didn't know his struggles when it come to his addictions and him not being the greatest person to deal with and kind of being an asshole. But he was my favorite. But he says one thing that used to always separate me is I could connect with you. I don't know if I did a good job, but for the past 26 years, you were connected to me, and I had no idea. But I was connected to you as well. I never won most popular. I wasn't prom king. I wasn't the homecoming king. So I guess my entire adult life, most thing that was important to me is that you believed in me, and I thought I was good. On this night in the 2011 Hall of Fame, I feel it. Thank you. I love my ring, and I love each and every one of you. And I know this has been sappy, and I can't help it. And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. That was Shawn Michaels' closing speech at the WWE Hall of Fame. But there's a guy there. He's not afraid to admit, man, he was not a good person to work with. And he changed his life around, you know what I mean? But when he was in there, man, whew, did he put it on?
I've heard some things.
Yeah, he was not good. Not a good human. He's not shy about saying he wasn't a good human.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can admit that, that's great.
Yeah.
Would you like me to read the quote that you put in there? Because I feel like, well, we'll get to that at the end.
Let me find it real quick. I'll read it off for you.
All right. Well, in the meantime, Maestro, do you use positive self-talk or affirmations at all?
I as of more recently, yes. Because that was something I always struggled with going back to what I'd brought up before is just like self-image. I never really had the best self-image. So it was always important to me what other people thought. And then, other people didn't have the same like bad self-image of me. So it was not self-affirmation. It was more so like a social affirmation that kind of kept me going there. But then I realized that was not enough. That's not really like the healthiest. It is nice to have social affirmation too.
Sure. Yeah.
But it is more important to have the self affirmation. And I think as I've realized that and as I've used that tool, more things like this start to open up because you just believe in yourself. But it's also about seeing the results for me. And again, it goes back to the hard work because I know I can work hard, but it was a matter of did I want to? And then I just have to keep telling myself, just work hard. It'll be fine. You just need to work hard. And like that's basically my self affirmation is it's going to be fine. You just need to work hard. Like that's it. Like that's all I tell myself every time I step into something that I feel like I'm in over my head or I feel like I have no clue what I'm doing or whatever it is. I just remind myself, I'm like,
yeah,
it's going to be fine. You just have to work hard. Like I can't sit back and hope it goes well.
Yeah.
I just need to put in the hard work because, when I have put in the hard work, it always turns out fine. You know what I mean?
So I have 2 things to that. I have one, I feel like the social aspect of the affirmation is more of a validation. because for me, that's something I'm experiencing through my work with Leapfrog and the network and building the YouTube. Um, Being able to do that and realize, oh, I think this work I'm doing is good, and then to hear it's good is like
Mhm.
doing wonders for me
Yep.
personally, and it's
Mhm.
continuing to light that fire, right? But I also want you to know, and this is for both of you, this is for everybody on our team. Um, Working hard is fantastic and it's much appreciated, right? But if you start to burn out, right? Or if you need help or you need somebody to listen to, part of the feelings check from when I learned it is like, how are you feeling? What is your goal? And then the third question is, who can help you with that, right? I just want you guys to know that I will be your designated shoulder. I will be that designated person. Like, if you need help, come to me. And I think we're all that for each other naturally. But
Mhm.
I think as a team, it needs to be known like you don't have to take everything on yourself, or if you are having a hard time, it's okay to take that break and tag somebody in. I saw Chris Levin say it in one of our production chats the other day. Hey man, if you're not feeling well, I'm ready for the hot tag.
I like that. That was cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
So
love working with that dude, man. He's cool.
Well, and just to kind of to piggyback off that sentiment too, like, thinking about that term hard work, hard work doesn't necessarily mean to just continuously run the tires
right.
until they flame out, because it can also help you work smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of
um,
quality.
and like that's and like that's important too, because if you do feel to a point where you're overworking yourself, like, yes, that is hard work, but at the same time there's such thing as overwork, and that doesn't necessarily help you. Even though you might be doing hard work, overworking doesn't help, so you might need to do the hard work of taking a break. Like,
Yeah.
that could be, depending on time crunch or depending on what it is, that could be hard work, is to stop what you're doing, even though you're about 10 seconds away from burnout or whatever it is, like, to be able to tell yourself that, like, I cannot get to this point, and you need to be smart about it. So it's like, um I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, it's important to work hard, but it's also important to work smart.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
Work
like,
smarter, not harder.
I don't want to, like, misconstrue, like, you just need to keep working, keep working, keep working, because that's like the whole perpetual thing of society is like, well, how do you make money? Well, you just continuously work, and that's like
Mhm.
basically what's driven our society in terms of like people's working hours and jobs, and that's why, like, so many people are, either depressed, or there's, whatever's going on. It's because we've become a culture of just people continuously working in order to provide for their families, or do whatever it is. And that's, they might be working hard, but they may not be working smart.
And a lot of
Yeah.
people are working to goals that aren't necessarily theirs. They're working for goals that they've seen somebody else accomplish.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Here's a quick question for you. I know, and I hate to bring this up again, 'cause I know we talked about it last episode, but with the world we're living in now, where people are, where sometimes maybe your heroes have let you down,
Ah,
with this cancel culture, and I'm not saying cancel culture has a negative connotation, but where
it's
they have
funny.
been they
You're
have been
bringing,
called out in the cancel culture,
yeah.
or where they have been called out because they have a different view politically or
Mhm.
agenda wise on something that you didn't really know they have.
Sure.
But if you're someone, so like, all right, I'll put a name out here in a wrestling term. Not a very popular guy right now. Maybe he said some things and did some things that didn't coincide with us right now. I'm someone too who has a hard time looking to him as the same role model before. But Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah.
Hulk Hogan has
Yeah.
probably inspired a generation of people to eat their vitamins and drink their milk and do the right thing and work out and be this person. And you could be the world champion. You could be a Hulkamaniac, and that has been bought into for decades, like a decade. You know what I mean? Like people have lived that mantra, and now he kind of let you down as a person. And I think sometimes people will then lose the message of that positivity
Yeah.
when they realize that that person has then let you down. And I think it's important to realize that you can still take that positive message that you were taught by that person, and it doesn't reflect you as a person if you still use it to motivate yourself.
So
What
you've
what
touched
they did,
on
what
You've
they
touched.
did to let you down doesn't have to
Mhm.
necessarily negate the fact that they've inspired you to be better.
Well,
You've touched.
I heard an interesting perspective on something like that that I never actually thought of before. When you're like talking about um, seeing somebody who you looked up to, but
Mhm.
um, like I saw the example of J.K. Rowling. She wrote the Harry Potter books, and that was a
Yeah.
big inspiration to a lot of people, especially like my and our generation growing up. Like kids read those books and all that kind of stuff. But it turns out she does not have some popular views when it comes to like the transgendered community and things of that nature. So a lot of her fan base is upset with her, but at the same time, they're not giving up. They're not all of a sudden boycotting the Harry Potter books. The Harry Potter books aren't going off the shelves.
Sure.
It's that book now, or that story doesn't belong to the artist, even though they came up with it. It belongs to the people.
Yeah.
So, like, I
Absolutely.
think Hulk Hogan, even though like Hulk Hogan himself, the person, Terry Bollea, whatever you want to call it, might be, this not so great person, but that character of Hulk Hogan, that character of, I almost said eat your prayers, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, like that belongs to the people, and you can kind of take with that what you will. And like you can even do that for artists in music if you want to. I mean, if you really have strong
I,
convictions about what they said or what they've done in their personal life, like it, that's your point of view. But if you just look at the artwork for the artwork itself, and let's say this person who doesn't have really great views of things or might be kind of messed up came up with something that's really thought provoking or
sure.
inspiring, then don't look at it as that person said this. Look at it as this artwork that's
I,
inspiring you.
I felt really bad when I watched Surviving R. Kelly and then was compelled to listen to R. Kelly music. I'm like, man, it's good music, but now I'm starting to hear the lyrics are
There's
probably
so many other
based on
people that
really
go
bad.
into that music. It's not just him. He
Yeah,
just
but
happens to be singing the music, but it's
I
not just him putting everything together.
no,
There's
I
other
I
people
agree.
that went into that. So like it's a body of art. It's this artwork. So like
Yeah.
all of those different things you can think of more so as an artwork that
Yeah.
can be inspirational rather than like
Well,
a
and now it
person
becomes owned
inspiring.
by the community, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, it's owned by the
Um,
people.
I
so I
like
had
that.
a question that I literally had as a topic point that I just didn't I think we kind of blew right past it, right? And then you guys brought it up and it's really kind of cool. What happens when your mentors are proven to not be infallible? Like I remember, and I won't say who it was, it's somebody related to me, right? Somebody I looked up to greatly. Um, who I thought was like this great upstanding citizen, they valued their intelligence, and I thought they were my ultimate role model. Until one day I caught I caught them doing like cocaine and like the weeds. They did the weeds, right? But I'm like, this is the same person who berated me because he thought I may have smoked weed once and I haven't because this is still my high school time. I'm like, I haven't, but like now you do this, like my world is shattered by you, and like you're not the person you play in front of me. Like it's shattering, but then also like I understood that like I learned a lot. So like the saying of like do as I say and not as I do, sometimes it's actually very poignant because people know from their own shortcomings and from others' mistakes and their own mistakes to kind of teach you to be better. And you just got to kind of filter through like, okay, well, this is good information. That's not great behavior,
Yeah.
but it's hard
That
when you're a kid to
that
understand.
exact thing happened to me. And it
Mhm.
could be one. It was one of those people that I mentioned earlier where, he was my role model. He was my guidance, and I was like, wait a second. There's a little more to this than I thought it was. This is a little more. There's some other things that were happening here, or things that went down.
Mhm.
That I was like, man, that kind of. And I thought for a second like this shattered my world. I lost respect, but I really didn't because I also their teachings taught me enough to be empathetic and to see that everyone is human. And I kind of did that thing back at a younger age where I was like, well, listen,
Mhm.
that piece of them, I'm
Yeah.
not keeping that. That's not my baggage. That's not coming with me. I'm going to take what's important from this, and I'm going to keep that. And this other stuff, I'm going to leave with them.
It's
And I'm going to
funny,
use,
like
but I'll use that to not go that same route again.
it
You know what I mean?
reminds me of earlier when you asked me, "Do I think I'm a role model?" And I think with that in mind, I don't think you have to be a perfect person to be a role model.
Absolutely not. But the thing is as well as when I realized that I was going to do this podcast thing, I realized that I'm going to put myself out in a situation. This may sound egotistical, and it's not meant to be. But if you put yourself out there, people can they will and can consume it, and you have no idea who's going to latch onto what and who's going to be something that's going to like you can inspire somebody. Someone can turn around and be like, I like this guy. Like great example is Joe Rogan. A lot of people have latched on to Joe Rogan, but now that Joe Rogan has spoke out against certain things, a lot of people are like, well, he's a piece of shit now because his one view is terrible, but all the other things he said that I liked, I now they don't matter anymore.
Mhm.
So I always kind of gave that persona, even at a very early start to this podcast, is kind of like the Howard Stern approach, where I'm not going to be ashamed or I'm not going to hide who I am as a person. It's either you're going to like me or you're going to hate me. Um, but I'm going to be genuine to myself. You're not going to find out 6 years from now that I was something I wasn't.
Mhm.
So I want to be very honest myself, but I also want to be very clear where if I say something in a joking manner, or if I have a belief on something or a question on something, I'm not totally tied to that thought either. I am open minded to hearing the other side of the spectrum and learn and educate myself to become better.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
that goes back to that authenticity
Yeah.
point. You know what I mean? Which I like again, I that's one of the two things I always look for in just people to try to surround myself with is just authenticity. You know what I mean? And like it may not be a good authentic, whatever your opinion is on whatever it is, but like you can't fault somebody for being themselves. But if they're
Mhm.
trying to be somebody else, if they're trying to hide behind something or whatever, and you can see through the bullshit, that's the problem.
Oh
You
my
know
god,
what
our
I
first
mean?
night meeting, Maestro, I thought you were gonna hate me because it was at like a point where I was so fucking angry, and like I was just sitting in the room and I was venting and I was just like, and you were the only person standing there, and because I am who I am and I'm just not, I can't hide my emotions or what I want to say. I just like vented to you and you're just like, yep. And I went to Alex, like called him like, dude, I fucking lost my shit on this poor guy, but it wasn't directed at him. It was just
Yeah.
me getting it off my chest. And I was like, I hope he doesn't think I'm a dick.
No.
Yeah. I think being yourself uh unapologetically is not the greatest thing.
Yeah.
But being yourself and being at the pursuit of your happiness, as long as it's not at the expense of somebody else's, that's what we should all strive for.
Yeah. I have that quote up if you're ready then.
I am absolutely ready for it. I think it's a great way to kind of wrap this up.
All right. Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about what other financial disasters you had, personal failures, and relationship failures. What would the hero of your life story do right now? Do that. Do those things. We define ourselves too often by our past failures. We look at our past and say, well, that's me, and that's not you. You are this person right now. You are the person who has learned from those failures, and you can choose to be the hero of your own movie right now. Write down your goals, write down the things you want to improve, write down the things you won't tolerate from yourself, and write down the things you've done in your past that you will never want to see yourself do again, and go forth. From here, as you're the hero of your own movie, build momentum, build confidence, and momentum with each good decision that you make from here on out. You can do it. Anyone can do it. We live in unique times. We live in one of the rarest times in human history where you can choose almost all of the input that comes your way, whether it's the movies you watch, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to. You can choose to be inspired by that. Do it. Do that and be the hero of your own movie. Joe Rogan.
Dude, absolutely. Absolutely. So what's
Well,
that like how do you take that and how do you internalize that?
so what a huge reason why I take it in. I consume kind of going back to what I was saying before, I consume nothing but people who I look up to, who I admire, and people who I love. And I consume what they put out because it inspires me to want to work with them, to want to listen to what they do, to want to learn more about them, and to be more connected with the people that I respect. If you turn around and listen to nothing but hate or political stuff, or you're picking a side or you're choosing a side, you're gonna fall into that trap. You're gonna become the product of what you're trying to consume the most of. Um, so yeah, put if your timeline on your, and I've been starting to do this recently, if you're on timeline and your friend that you care about is just putting up nonsense, there's a thing you can hit where you say, take a break from this person, and you don't see their shit no more.
Mhm.
You have the choice to change the way your timeline is on your social media. You have the choice to watch and listen to the music and the podcast that you want to listen to, just like that quote said. Change it. If you want to make a better yourself, start with your mind. And when you get your mind right and you're motivated, the rest will come. You want to lose weight? You can try to go to a gym, but if you're not mentally ready for that gym, you're going to quit in 2 days.
Mhm.
Set yourself those goals now. Turn around and say, hey, I want to go to the gym. But all right, but if I go to the gym, I gotta come home, I gotta get the dishes done, I gotta vacuum, I gotta get the stuff done around the house, I gotta do this. You're putting up those barriers of why you can't go to the gym, why you can't do that. And this is stuff I'm doing right now with myself. So you do is, all right, I'm gonna get those 5 or 6 things done now. So when tomorrow comes, those aren't obstacles anymore. I've eliminated those obstacles. So now you can't say, well, I had to get so much done at the house. Now there's no reason for you to go to that gym. Well, today I just want to rest. You can rest when you're done. You know what I mean? Like, no more, don't put excuses for yourself. Don't build those walls. Change your life starting today, and it comes down to you. Be the hero. You're a Batman fan. Everyone's watching comic book movies. Be that hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
If you really want that change, if you really want to be better, only you can hold yourself accountable. Or if you have a support system like I have,
mhm,
if you have an Anthony, if you have a Maestro, if you have those people, you can ask them to hold you accountable too. You can build a support system and you can succeed, but the ball's in your court. Like,
mhm,
nobody can do this for you. Nobody can do the work for you. People can support you, but you have to put those things into place. You have to put the support system into place for yourself. You have to set the goals and you have to put in the work. And
mhm.
there's no other way around that. You
Yep.
can't win the lottery if you don't play it. You can't play it if you don't make the money, and if you don't make the money if you don't do the work.
Yep.
So even
I-
getting rich doesn't work without work.
And
Getting rich quick, I mean.
a really positive thing too is, say if like, hey, I have 6 pack abs. I think my mind's great. I don't know what else I have to work on. Whether it be
Mhm.
a craft you want to do, whether it be a hobby. If you want to build relationships with your loved ones, with your family, with your
Sure.
parents, with your work environment, with your coworkers, it all starts with you. Um, if someone at your job hates you, or if someone in your life hates you, or you have someone who doesn't like you, or something like, I'm not saying that you're the problem, but if you put enough positive energy out and you truly believe in it and you do the right things and work on yourself, people will around you change
Yeah.
without even you having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And
Or the people around you change. You know what
yes,
I mean?
and you're the greatest example of that. We go back to that story as well. Like, you separate yourself from your family, you
Mhm.
became a positive influence on yourself, you worked on yourself and did positive things, and
Sure.
your loved ones changed around you without even you have to give in those lessons.
Yeah. I mean, either they change while they're in your life, or the people in your life change, as in, like, I no longer have that best friend. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because of my growth, the people around me have changed, but also because of my growth with the people that are growing with me, they will change things about them as well. And it might come naturally. They might even not notice.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But or maybe they will see, like, oh shit, I want to be better. I want to kind of do what they're doing, and they're going to actively put in the work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. There's a thing called transference. It's We could talk about energy, we could talk about spirituality, but really it's this behavioral concept of, if I'm in a bad mood and I interact with you, you are going to get that bad mood rubbed off on you, right? And
Absolutely.
then anybody you interact with is going to have their good mood is going to be dampened by your bad mood. And that energy, that bad energy transfers. Works the same way with positive energy, and it works the same way with growth. The better you become, the better the people around you become, because it's going to rub off. The better
Yeah.
you feel, the better they feel. The worse you feel, the worse they feel. So the best thing that we can do as people, consciously growing, is we need to learn how to manage our emotions. We need to manage our thoughts, and
The energy we put out.
yeah, man, it's very important.
When you go to your job every day and everyone around you says, "Man, I hate this job. I hate this job. I hate this job," you
You're
are
gonna hate
most
this
likely
job.
going to hate this job as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
You want to? We'll put it in wrestling terms. I
Mhm.
want to wrestle. I want to get my name out there, but man, do I hate going to this locker room. And then everyone else, man, I hate being in this locker room. I don't
Mhm.
get this. I don't get that. If you go in and be like, man, I'm here. I'm gonna be. If at every show that I've been to, whether everyone hated the show they were at, there was always one or two guys who were just like, man, this is great. I love it here. And that person's always the one that 5 or 6 people gravitate towards and have conversations with, because
Mhm.
it's not the burden of, oh, I have to listen to this guy bitch the whole time, you know?
Right.
And kind of tying it back in, that's the great thing about the high tension locker
Yeah.
room that's coming, as well as the Leapfrog locker room. Everyone there is excited to be there. It's not a chore. It's not
Yeah.
upsetting to be there. And that energy transfers over and everyone has a great time.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Any final thoughts for you guys? I thought this was a really, really good topic. Sparked some great conversations. I think we all almost cried at one point.
Yeah.
This is actually unexpected, but like honestly beautiful, because wow, this podcast is about wellness, and we all just went through a therapeutic session for free with each other. And I thank you guys for that. Like seriously, you guys mean a tremendous deal to me. And that, like Jerry Springer, is my final thought.
If you've lasted these 2 hours listening, make sure you follow High Tension. High Tension links are all below. Follow on all social media. You have all of our social medias here if you're watching the video, at Real
Mhm.
Kilowatt, at Anthony Blackwell Jr., at the Maestro A. Scott. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter is all there if you want to reach out to us personally, or if you just want to follow the pages, you can do so as well. Reach out, let us know, give us some feedback. Tell us a topic that you want to hear us talk about, whether it be, I want to hear more about what we kind of heard today, and we can elaborate more.
Sure.
If you give us the feedback, we'll talk about it. I know there's a topic coming up very soon that I want to do, and I want to possibly do our first on location podcast with this,
Field trip.
because you know me, I like my on location stuff. So
Sure.
hopefully, maybe very, very soon we can go to the Tree of Life Metaphysical Shop in Ringtown, and we can learn. Oh, I want to learn more about the chakras.
I'm
Awesome.
in. I'm
Yeah,
in.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah. The only final thought I have, that we kind of touched on, but not so much in like a blunt way,
Sure.
is that time is motivation, because we
Yeah.
all have a certain amount of time on this earth,
Mm,
and you can either spend it making the excuses, or you can spend it being productive.
yeah.
It's your choice what you do with it, but you only have a certain amount.
I don't have money to go on nice vacations. I'm never really gonna have nice things except my podcast. That's pretty nice. But I use the money I put into my podcast things to make experiences that to me are better than going on a vacation right now. Like,
mhm.
sure, I'd love to go to Italy. I'd love to go to Europe. I'd love to see the world, but being at Camp Leapfrog is a vacation for me. Being at the backstage at a wrestling show, recording in an old jail, or recording in a
Mhm.
bike shop, like they're all things to me that like I would have never done if I didn't take this jump and start doing what I'm passionate about and make this jump into this podcast world. I would have never met people like you guys. Like I would have. So it's beautiful, man. Do
Yeah,
it.
man.
Mhm.
Time, man, that's gonna go up there with one of my inspirational things, dude. I appreciate that. Like to understand that time is limited, and how do you want to spend that, dude? I want to continue to spend it at Leapfrog. I want to continue to spend it
Mhm.
with you guys. I want to continue to be happy, dude. Like I don't want to spend the rest of my time not happy.
Yeah.
I've lived it. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so with having said all that, I think we've God, we've done so much good today. I love it, guys. Thank you. Do you guys have anything specific you guys want to plug? I'm sure it's going to be all around the same thing for all of us, but
Just High Tension Network. Show us some love. Yeah, Frog Sport coming up.
Yeah, just like pretty much the Camp Leapfrog at Camp Leapfrog. Frog Sport's coming up. So
First
check out
match is out now.
IWTV. Yeah.
Second match starts in 1 minute.
What's the second match for
it is Molly McCoy versus Jordan Blade.
Ooh.
Launches right now on the Independent Wrestling Podcast Network.
Well,
Independent Wrestling Podcast Network. Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. I'm actually going to head over there now and join the comment section.
All right, guys. Well, I've been the Real Kilowatt, Anthony Blackwell Jr., and the Maestro, Anderson Scott. This is High Tension Wellness. I hope that you've been inspired. I hope you will be motivated, and I hope you talk good to yourself. You're worth it, and be well.
Hey, we love you guys, and you guys, I love you guys.
I do the sign off. Be well.
After all that positivity.
Yeah. Just don't steal my thunder.
Normalize saying I love you to your friends. So
let's end it with that. I love you guys.
Love you, man.
Love you.